Former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Hey, everybody. Well, I spent a lot of money on getting on every state ballot in this country. We got 1 million Americans to sign their names to petitions. We built a network in every state in this country. The entire time, our polling and all the national polling was showing that the majority, about 57 to 60%, of the people that wanted to support me, if I dropped out of the race, they said that they wanted to vote for Donald Trump. So I was hurting Donald Trump. I was hurting the Republican Party. But the Republican Party did nothing to stop me from getting on any ballot. Donald Trump was critical of me in a way that was congenial, that was respectful, and that was kind. But he did nothing. And meanwhile, the Democratic Party spent tens of millions of dollars to defame me, to publish perjuries against me, to publish fake news against me, to marginalize me, to make me look like a crazy person, and they spent tens of millions of more dollars attorneys to sue us in all the states. The day that I announced for Donald Trump, and so far they've won that lawsuit. DC and do all the things to help end the war, to end the chronic disease epidemic, to end the censorship, to end the surveillance, and all the... I've been a Democrat my whole life, and I heard all of the descriptions, very service, something that Hillary... And when President Trump got elected, I said 80 million people voted for him. How can we dismiss 80 million of our fellow Americans as deplorables? Oh, I don't want to work in Washington, D.C. I have a good job. I have a great life. But I want to help these kids so that we can end the chronic disease epidemic. And I went to President Trump, and I said to President Trump, if you want my help, I am here to do it. And we worked together for a while. But I started to understand that MAGA, for most Democrats, MAGA, Make America Great Again, means going back to the 1950s. And they say it's racist because we didn't have civil rights in our country at that time for Black Americans. They say it's dictatorial and it's against freedom of speech because that was the era of Joe McCarthy. And they say it's isolationist and retrograde. But the more that I get to know you, and the more that I get to know Donald Trump, I understand what MAGA really means. And I asked Donald Trump about what he thought MAGA meant, what era we were going to make America great again. And he said, the era of your uncle, John F. Kennedy. And That was the era when America was at its apex, here and abroad. We were the wealthiest country in the world. We owned half the wealth on the face of the earth. The American middle class was the greatest economic engine in the history of mankind. We had a robust union movement that was making sure that American labor had dignity and good jobs. We had virtually every American believed in the accessibility of the American dream, which meant at that time that if you worked hard, if you played by the rules, you could afford to buy a home. You could take a summer vacation. You could raise a family, and you could put something aside for your retirement on a single job. There's no American now in my kids' generation. Sorry, my duck is calling. There's no American now in my kids' generation who believes that that contract applies to them. This is a demoralized generation. In 2013, there was a poll in which Americans under 35 were asked, are you proud of the United States of America? And 85% of them said yes. The same poll taken 6 months ago, only 17% said yes. We have an entire generation that is alienated, that is disaffected, that has lost faith, hope for their own futures, and has lost their pride in our country. And to me, that was one of the most tragic data points that I learned about in this election. We have kids, the greatest asset that I had as a boy was this intense pride that I had about the United States of America. And we were, at that time, a moral authority around the world. The people all around the world wanted to be in America. They looked to us for leadership. They knew the difference between leadership and bullying. They didn't want us making wars. My uncle was asked by one of his best friends, what do you want on your gravestone? And he said, he kept the peace. He said the primary job of a president of the United States is to keep our country out of war. He said that he didn't want African children and Latin American children and Asian children, when they heard about the United States of America, to think of a man with a gun. He wanted them to think of a Peace Corps volunteer. He wanted them to think of the Kennedy Milk Program, which gave nutrition to tens of millions of hungry children around the world. He wanted them to think of USAID and the Alliance for Progress that put America on the side of the poor, not just in this country, but all around the world. And those are the same ambitions that Donald Trump has. Today, my uncle kept any American soldier during his term in office from ever going to die in combat. Today, as a result of that commitment, there are more statues to John Kennedy, more boulevards named after him, more avenues, more universities, more hospitals in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and any other U.S. president, and probably more than all other presidents combined. And that is a good foreign policy, to have the world love us. Don't you want a foreign policy where the rest of the world loves and admires the United States of America? And when he says, make America great again, that's what he's talking about. And one of the things that we learned at home is that we not only had to be virtuous as a nation, we had to be virtuous as individuals. We had to, for example, tell the truth when we did something wrong. So one time I hit a baseball through my mom's window and broke it. And my dad said to me, before you answer this question, I want you to remember what George Washington did. He cut down the cherry tree. This is a story every American knew at that time. His father asked him, who cut it down? And he said, I did. He always admitted when he was wrong. But now, The Democratic Party has given us a loophole around that mandate. All you have to know is 7 words, and you never have to admit to doing anything wrong again. And do you know what those 7 words are? I was born in the middle class. Oh. So repeat after me. I was born in the middle class. So the next time your boss asks you why you were late for work, what are you going to say? And the next time your wife asks you why you didn't take out the garbage, what are you going to say? And the next time your landlord asks you for the rent check, what are you going to say? That's all you have to know, and you don't have to answer any question. And we know why she didn't want to answer that question, because there's no good answer to it. By every indicia in which we measure the welfare of our economy, the Trump administration excelled, and the Biden-Harris administration has failed us. Inflation on average during the Trump administration was held under 7%. Now it's at 20%. Gross rents have almost doubled. Mortgages have more than doubled in just 3.5 years. Groceries have gone up. Gasoline has gone up. Electricity has gone up. Healthcare has gone up. Do you know the only thing that's gone down? Wages. So though that is not a success story, and I don't blame her for not wanting to answer that question. It was a question that was almost impossible for her to answer truthfully and still walk out of that debate. So the Democratic Party that I grew up with, the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy, of Robert Kennedy, does not exist today. This was the party of peace. Today, it's the party of war. And we saw President Zelensky come over here. I was so proud of President Trump today, who did a press conference with Zelensky. And the Democrats had done their own press conference, and you know what he got them to do? He got them to sign artillery shells. These are artillery shells that are going to be dropped on women and children. And he got them to sign something else, an $8 billion additional check. Don't you think we could use that money over here in this country? This was a war that we were lied to from day one. We were told that it was an unprovoked invasion. We weren't told that Vladimir Putin and every other Russian leader told us for 30 years, if you go into Ukraine, we're going to have a military reaction. It is a red line for us. Ukraine has a 2,200-mile border with Russia. They've been invaded 3 times through Ukraine. Last time, Hitler killed 1 out of every 7 Russians. If we put Aegis missile systems in Ukraine, like we've done in Romania and Poland, which they also told us don't go in there, those missiles, Tomahawk missiles, which can be nuclear tipped, will be 3 miles from Moscow. We could decapitate the entire Russian leadership in 3 minutes. My uncle, when the Russians tried to put missiles in Cuba, was going to go to war. And if Putin tried to put missiles in Canada or Cuba or Mexico, we would go to war. So we had to expect that they would do exactly what they told us we were going to do. And if you go into Ukraine with NATO, we're going to go to war. And 2 days before the invasion, Kamala Harris went to Germany and said definitively, for the first time by any U.S. leader, we are moving NATO into Ukraine. And that is something that we all need to understand, that provocation. And I was so proud of President Trump because everybody says that he alienates people all over the world. He doesn't know how to be a diplomat. But he was the epitome of diplomacy, and I urge you to go look at the YouTube. He was kind and civil to President Zelensky. He was also firm in his resolve. And he said, I've had a nice meeting, and we need to protect U.S. interests, not an end the Democrats gave him. And we need to the Democrats gave him. And we need to don't you think you deserve a president who is going to make peace with the world? Who is going to project economic power abroad? Who is going to project economic power abroad? They say he's an isolationist. He isn't. He wants to make deals. He's a deal maker. He wants to make deals with China, but not the old kind of time that will bring the world into a peaceful economic growth and a boom for all nations. This is what he says again and again. He's not a tyrant. He's not a monster. He just wants the best for the United States of America. And don't you... The Democratic Party that I grew up with, particularly the right of freedom of speech, which my uncle and my father treasured. They thought this is the basis of fundamental bedrocking information. That is the beginning of totalitarianism. And we know this because we read Orwell and Aldous and civics lessons again and again. The one thing that you never allow a government to do is to censor speech of any kind. And if you do that, is the first step down the slippery slope of totalitarianism. So the Democrat Trump hating the censorship of our speech lies. Because that is not, the First Amendment protects lies the same. Because that is not, the First Amendment protects lies the same as it protects speech. The truth. The First Amendment was not written. And that is the fundamental foundation stone of democracy. And that is the fundamental foundation stone of democracy, that everybody gets to say, to have their own truth. And as Louis Brandeis said, the remedy for bad speech is not censorship, never, because that turns to totalitarianism. The remedy for bad speech is more speech. And that's something that Donald J. Trump understands because he's been censored himself. And he understands it very acutely. He's seen the weaponization of the federal agencies to silence him, to destroy the electoral process, as they did to me. The Democratic Party has not had an election. They're saying that he's destroying democracy. But they felt the need to destroy democracy in order to save it. They would not let me participate in a primary. And Kamala Harris never got a single primary vote. We don't know who appointed her. And that's not democracy. President, don't you want a president who believes in democracy? Don't you want a president who wants to see the censorship ended in this country? Don't you want a president who's going to end the surveillance state and make our country the beacon of freedom around the world once again? And the party that I grew up in was the party that was very skeptical of the corporate control of American democracy. The Republican Party was the party of corporate control. The Democrats were on the side of working people, of the poor, of the cops, the firefighters, labor unions. And today, there's been an inversion. During the 2020 election, roughly 50% of the people in this country supported the Democratic Party, and roughly 50% supported the Republican Party. The 50% who supported the Democratic Party own 70% of the wealth in this country. The 50% who supported Donald Trump own 30%. As Charlie Kirk said to me the other day, Donald J. Trump chased the billionaires out of the Democratic Party. Out of the Republican Party, excuse me. The Democratic Party today is the party of big pharma, big tech, big ag, big food, the military-industrial complex, and Wall Street. Look at the people who are pouring money into the Harris campaign. This is why they've collected 2 to 3 times more money than Donald Trump. They have all the money on their side. We have the people. And don't you want a president of the United States who, instead of outsourcing U.S. jobs and manufacturing capacity abroad to China and to Latin America and to other countries, is going to get other countries to outsource their manufacturing and jobs to Michigan, like Falk that we're standing in now. And don't you want a president who is going to protect our border? And raise your hand if you think it's a good idea that the Mexican drug cartel, the Sinaloa cartel, is now running U.S. border policy. That's not good for our country. Do you think that's good for our country? No. It's terrible, and it's terrible for working people. In the last 10 years of his life, I worked very, very closely with Cesar Chavez, who was a very close political ally and personal friend of my father. And during that, and I was a pallbearer at his funeral in 1993. During that period, I was working with him on pesticide issues because Hispanic farm workers, 15,000 of them are poisoned, many of them killed by pesticide exposures every year, and their families are devastated. Cesar Chavez's other big issue was closing the U.S. border because he understood, and I was at the border many times. The first time I went down between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and I saw there's 27 gaps in the wall that were left by the Biden administration when they shut down construction the day they came into office. And all the material that we've already paid for is sitting right next to those gaps in the wall. They could easily rebuild them right now. President Harris says, there's nothing I could do. Yeah, there is. You could just finish the wall. And when I was down there at 2 o'clock in the morning, it looked like the start of the Boston Marathon. There were people, humanity pouring across, and the Border Patrol their job had been repurposed from protecting our borders, escorting people to the Yuma airport and sending them to any destination in our country. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen. And it's crushing the social safety net in our country. And the reason Cesar Chavez wanted to close the border is he saw that all these illegal migrants who were coming across were destroying his capacity to negotiate for good working conditions and good wages for his American workers. And that was obvious at that time, not only to Cesar Chavez, but the entire Democratic Party. Today, because President Trump said we need to close the wall, that's the only thing that they hear. If Trump says it, it must be wrong, so now we're up for an open border. Don't you want a president who is going to reassert control of the U.S. government of our immigration policy? And, my uncle Ted Kennedy, who was 50 years in the United States Senate, he wrote a law called Title IX. And that law, and he got Republicans and Democrats to support it, that law created equality in women's sports because he said women ought to be allowed to compete, and they ought to have the same rights as men to compete. And that's something the Democratic Party believed in. But they don't believe in it anymore. Now they're against women's sports. And finally, the Democratic Party that I grew up with wanted to protect the most vulnerable people in our society. They wanted good health for our children. And today, the Democratic Party is on the side of the big ag, big pharma, and big food companies that are poisoning our children. We now have the highest chronic disease rate in the world. Diabetes, which was virtually unknown when I was a kid. An average pediatrician in my year, with my day, when I was a kid, when my uncle was president, would see one case of diabetes, juvenile diabetes, in his lifetime, 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And it's costing us more than our military budget. Just that kind of mitochondrial disorder. This is bankrupting. When my uncle was president, we spent 0 on chronic disease. Now we spend $4.3 trillion. And our children are so sick and so obese that 77% of them do not qualify for military service. Our fertility levels have dropped to the lowest in the world. Teens today have 50% of the sperm count, 50% of the testosterone as teens, American teens 2 generations ago. Little girls are now hitting puberty at 8 years old because of all the estrogen that is generated by the poisons and toxic foods. We have 1,000 ingredients in our foods that are illegal in Europe. And the same companies, Kellogg and all these companies, are making products in Europe, and they don't use those ingredients there. So they know how to do it, but they're poisoning Americans when they know how to not poison Canadians or Europeans or Mexicans. And the average girl in this country is now reaching puberty between 10 and 13 years old. That's 6 years younger than a couple generations ago, and it is the youngest of any nation in the world. We are destroying our children. And that was the major reason, his commitment, Donald Trump's commitment, to make America healthy again. Is the primary reason that I joined this campaign. And don't you think that we want a president in this country that is going to make our country healthy again? Thank you all very much, and God bless you. And get to the poll on November 5th here in Michigan. And don't vote for me. Vote for Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
Whoa, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. What a crowd. Well, I want to thank everybody. There has never been spirit. You know, we did great, as you know, in 2016. We did much better in 2020. Bad things happened there. But there's never been spirit like we have for this one. Something's going on that's very special. And I want to say hello, Pennsylvania. I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful Commonwealth with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. Before we begin, I'd like to send my love and prayers to the families of those who have died, a lot of death, and all of those who are displaced and suffering in the wake of the hurricane's destruction in the South, especially in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and in particular, Western North Carolina took a tremendous hit. It's been absolutely devastated, and God be with you all. It's been a rough one. That was a big monster hurricane and hit a lot harder than anyone even thought possible. So we want to just extend our best wishes to everybody, right? And Joe Biden is in Delaware sleeping right now in one of his many estates. One of his many estates. How did he get so many houses? He never was anything. He was a politician, made $151. What the hell was it all about? And that's why Lion Kamala Harris in San Francisco, a city that she is totally destroyed. That's where she is right now at a fundraiser. I don't know why fundraiser. They send her, they get so much money. You know, a lot of people send money. I won't tell you who, but people that you would not like very much. I could give you the names. I think I will release the names. But if I do that, they'll say that I'm a threat to democracy. He's a threat. You wouldn't like the names. But they raise a lot of money from bad people. Fundraising events with their radical left lunatic donors. When big parts of our country have been devastated by that massive hurricane and is underwater with many, many people dead, she ought to be here. She ought to be down in the area where she should be. That's what she's getting paid for, right? That's what she's getting paid for. So he's at home sleeping in one of his many estates, and she's in San Francisco, which she destroyed, trying to raise more money. She ought to get out and do more interviews. That's what she ought to do, right? And I'm here in Erie, Pennsylvania with the workers who used to be Democrats, but now they're all Trump Republicans because they know that Trump is going to take them to the promised land. We will. And we will. And by the way, so that, you know, our polls are doing great. You saw that. This is, if we win Pennsylvania, we win. But, you know, honestly, we're doing good everywhere. But we were at the Alabama-Georgia game yesterday. Did you see it? So, just to show, because this is a poll too, right? And I walked in. It must be my looks. Because the place went stone cold crazy. Where is it? Put it up. Put it up. We got to put it up. Got off to a really big start. You would have said it was over, and then Georgia came back. What a great game that was. Great. Thousands of people outside. We were in Wisconsin. We had 50,000, maybe more people, and we were going to do an outdoor rally, and we ended up having to do it inside in front of about 1,000 people. But we had 50,000 people that showed up, but they didn't want me to be outside. They said they couldn't get us enough people because they were guarding the United Nations and Iran. The president of Iran is here. But Iran is threatening my life, and they're guarding the president of Iran. And Biden doesn't say anything. I'd say something. If that were me, and I don't care who the opponent was, I'd be letting him know, you better not touch, you better not do anything. But, you know, they're guarding Iran, and we had 50,000 people. It was the most incredible scene. Wisconsin, I think we're going to do great in Wisconsin. But Rasmussen just came out with a big poll. We're leading. And we have a couple of them where we're leading virtually in every swing state because people are tired of her act. We're going to say some tough things today. People are tired of her act, her lying. She's a liar, and they're tired of it. I think they would have been better off keeping Sleepy Joe. You want to know the truth? I do. Early voting is beginning and get underway. It's all underway right now in Pennsylvania. And Erie County is starting in the coming days. You know, Erie County was known as a Democrat area until Trump came along. And then they said, what the hell? Right, David? They said, what the hell happened to Erie County? Well, we love you. We're the same people. You, me, we're the same. We need each and every one of you to make a plan to vote early and vote absentee, do whatever you want. The main thing is you got to get out and you got to vote. I really believe that if you look at this date and look at what's happening to our country, I think November 5th will be the most important day potentially in the history of our country, because our country is going bad. It's going bad. We have stupid people running it. We also need you to find as many other new voters as you can, so go get them. We have some voters that are for us, but they never voted. And they're going to want to vote. Just a little bit prodding, they'll come out and they'll vote. Our entire nation is counting on the people of the Commonwealth, and I know you will not let us down. You're not going to let us down. We're going to have a tremendous vote. We're leading by a lot in Pennsylvania. We'll never frack, never frack. There will be no petroleum product. We're going to go to wind. Everything's going to be wind. Wind. Even if it's not windy, then we'll suffer for a couple of days. Well, about 90% of the year. We're going to wind. We're going to lots of different things. They haven't worked anywhere else in the world, but we're going anywhere. No, there's no way she fracks her whole life. So she has 15 policies, and over the last year and a half, every single one of them, she changed to the exact opposite. Like taking prisoners and giving them sex change operation. She's totally in favor. That's what she wants to do. That's one of the more men playing in women's sports. Who would want that? Who would want that? Frankly, the worst of all, and to me the most ridiculous, or almost most ridiculous, open borders. Let everyone come into our country and destroy it. But if we win in Pennsylvania, we will win the whole thing. We're going to win, and we're going to turn our country around. We're going to turn our country around, right? David, we're going to turn our country around. We're going to turn around fast. Thank you. And vote for that man right there. He's a great man, David McCormick, Senator. Bob Casey. Bob Casey does nothing. He doesn't do. I was there 4 years. I don't know if I ever met the guy. Just votes along whoever's, on the radical left, he votes. It's not your guy. He's been there a long time. His father was there. He was there. You got to get somebody that's got energy. He's a low-energy person. Remember the last time I said that? That family has never spoken to me again. 37 days from now, we're going to win this Commonwealth. We're going to defeat Lion Kamala Harris, and we will make America great again. We will do that. And this is the most important election. I think it's going to be the most important election of them all. I mean, they had some pretty good ones, right? A long time ago, they had some pretty good ones, but this is, I thought that 2016 was the most, and I'd say that. This is the most important because the border was bad. And then we fixed it 100%. It was so good. And then these guys took over and they destroyed it quickly. They got rid of little things like Remain in Mexico, things like not easy to get, Remain. When I told the president of Mexico, everybody's staying in Mexico. No, we wouldn't do that. I said, yes, you will. Because if you don't, we're going to tariff your cars at 150%, and that's going to be the end of that. Sir, we'd love to do that. We'd love to keep everybody in. We had hundreds of thousands of people. Tijuana was probably the fastest growing place on the planet. You ended up with like 500,000 people there, from a little town where you get a nice little drink to 500,000 people. They couldn't get into the country. They wouldn't come in. Mexico was great. But I used tariffs in order to get that, but it was very important. As soon as they came in, they let the people just pour in. It is so sad, and we're going to discuss that. If Kamala Harris gets 4 more years, America, as we know it, will absolutely be destroyed. You'll have not 21 or 25, whatever it may be. Nobody has any idea. They have no idea. They have no idea. You know, they like to say 12, 14, 13. It's 21. It's probably, could be 31, could be a lot more than that. They have no idea. They're pouring in. Kamala is openly acknowledged to be the worst vice president in history, and as president, she would be much worse than that. She would be a disaster. I mean, they asked her, did anybody see the Oprah interview? Oprah wanted to climb under the table. She couldn't. The whole thing is crazy. 2 days ago, for the first time ever, the Patriots of ICE released. This is the first time ever where they released murder numbers and rape numbers and human trafficking numbers. They never do that. They talk about overall, nice and gently. But somebody felt that these numbers should be released, and they came out actually just as she got to the border. It's very interesting. This was a little tough, because she gets up and she goes, well, I didn't really get involved too much with the border, but I'm going to now get involved. Why didn't she do it almost 4 years ago? Why didn't she do it? Because she can't do it. She can't do it. Number one, she doesn't have the capability. Number two, her base will not let her do it. For whatever reason that is, you have to explain that. But new data came out, and the massive number of savage criminal aliens that Kamala Harris has allowed to invade our country. This is an invasion, and these people are mean, tough. She had a total, listen to this, these numbers just came out. Nobody thought, and I've been saying it for a long time because we are the party of common sense. I knew that once they had open borders, all of the countries, I didn't think about all over the world. I thought in South America, it's all over the world. Last week, a lot of people came in from the Congo, a big prison in the Congo in Africa. Welcome to the United States. They came in from the Congo. They come in from South America. They come in from Asia. They come in from all over the world. They come in from all over the world. The Middle East, you got to see, from Yemen, they're coming in. We have more terrorists come into our country in the last 2.5 years than we've ever seen. You know, I had 1 year where Border Patrol said no terrorists came in. I had another year where they said 11 came in. Thousands of terrorists are pouring into our country now. Thousands. And they're coming into our cities and our small towns here in Pennsylvania and all over the country. These towns are petrified. Even if they're not there yet, they will be there because you have millions of people we're dealing with. No country, this is not sustainable by any country in total. Listen to these numbers, though. These are the official numbers. These are certified numbers. Can you believe it? This isn't her with her bullshit. In total, she's a liar. In total, during her term, no, it's not even believable. She let in 13,099 convicted murderers. Some of them had murdered 10 people. Some murdered 7. One murdered 6. I'm looking at these. These are stone-cold killers. And they let in people that are worse than any criminal we have. The only thing nice about it is they make our criminals look extremely soft and nice. And remember these people, remember her and Sleepy Joe saying, no, the people that we bring in, they don't create crime. I'm saying, are they kidding? I'm going to show you a video that I have that you're going to see in a couple of seconds. It's brutal. It's brutal. One guy talking to a judge, I will kill you. These are brutal people. These are the people that we don't want. You know, we all have big hearts and all that stuff. She let in 25,272 illegal aliens convicted of rape and other sex crimes, viciously raping and 62,231 criminal aliens convicted of violent assault, where people are just about dead, but they didn't die, but we took them in too. In total, she let in, listen to these numbers, 647,572 migrant criminals of the worst order. They call them of the worst order. I wonder what that means. Charged with or convicted with heinous crimes, including child predators, drug dealers, vicious gang members, sadist thugs, and people that deal in women, people that they take women and they sell women and they bring them across the border, mostly women, children also, but mostly women. And they're all living in our country right now. And we've had many killings. Rachel Morin, so many people have died, but wait till you see what's going to happen. Oh, and if I don't get in, it's going to be the worst thing that this country has ever suffered, because they won't do a damn thing about it. And the number of 21 or 25 or whatever million it is, you'll have 150, 200 million come in. You will have, this country will no longer be recognizable. It's already close to that, and we're going to get it taken care of. And I just say this. To all rapists, drug dealers, human traffickers, and murderers, welcome to America. It is important that you send a thank you note to Lion Kamala Harris, because without her, you would not be here. But we don't want you here, and you're going to get the hell out very soon. We're getting you out. When just one convicted murderer escapes from prison in real life, right? We have one person will escape who's not nearly as bad as the people we're letting in. He's like a perfect person compared to the people we're letting in. You'll see that in a second. But if somebody escapes, we have a massive manhunt, and we look all over the place, and we got everything in the world. And we have 13,099 that just came in. We have massive manhunts. It's all over the place, and they capture them. But now we have 13,099. That's just the murderers. And over 600,000 they call them highest level criminals in our country. Kamala let in the 13,099 convicted murderers and opposes all efforts to find them and to remove them. She opposes all these efforts because, look, she's a communist, you know that. I used to say Marxist, but unfortunately nobody knows what that is. Most people said, what's a Marxist? Is that a good thing or bad? I said, I have to use the word communist, okay? Do you mind? Does anybody mind? It's close, and by the way, they're close enough. Remember, I used to say, our country will never be a socialist country. And I turned out to be right. They skipped socialism. They went right down to communism. So I was right. See, because I'm right about everything, right? Trump is right about everything. Trump is right about everything. They skip socialism. Normally they go from socialism to communism. No, they skip socialism. Kamala Harris can never be forgiven for erasing our border. And she must never be allowed to become president of the United States. She'll destroy. She's a radical left lunatic. And one of the reasons I'm angry, yesterday she made a speech like everything on the border is good. And she's going to fix the border. Did you see that crazy speech? And I'm going to fix the border because I was a prosecutor. You know who she prosecuted? Mostly her political opponents like me. They said, but how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good, right? She actually had a terrible record as a prosecutor. And you know who she went after more than anybody? African Americans. They hate her. They hate her. And she destroyed San Francisco. But what she's done is a total disqualifier. She should be disqualified. She should resign the vice presidency and go home to California, which she is by, you know, she's really destroyed it. But she should go home in disgrace. What Kamala has done with illegal migrants is the biggest crime story of our time, because hundreds of thousands of people are going to be victims very shortly. It's happening. We had many of them yesterday. We had this incredible event. We had many of the parents of victims at the event. We had one or two that spoke. Killers are stone-cold monsters and have so little heart. Killers are stone-cold monsters and have so little heart. They have no heart. They have no heart. They really have no heart. Worse than anything you can see. These people are far worse. Country now. They don't even think about it. These are rough, vicious, rougher than anything you can imagine. There is no, and I say it all the time, if you wanted to do a movie on some of these people that you're going to be looking at in 2 minutes, if you wanted to do a movie, there's no actor in Hollywood that could play the role. There's nobody that could do it. These actors, you know, they're a little bit shaky. They can't play the role. They'll bring in a big actor and you look, you say, oh, he's got no muscle content. He's got no muscle. We need a little muscle. Then they bring in another one, but he's got a weak face. He looks weak. No, these guys have the whole, I kill you when I get out, I kill you. And, you know, the judge is like, oh, he's never heard this stuff. And even the guards, these people in, let's take a look at this. You'll find it very interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please step up.
For the felony he committed.
You know, I built hundreds of miles of wall. I'm going to buy one of those and come out here. I built hundreds of miles of wall and it worked. And I was going to add another 200 miles, and then we had a very disruptive election. Horrible thing happened, horrible, horrible, including in this state. We won it in 2016. We did so good here. Platform someday at some, it's emblematic. God, he must have been to two, but on Sunday or Saturday, goes to football, and they have the name of the player in the back, you know, like, I mean, who would do that? But they do that. I wouldn't do that, just out of pride. I'm not going to do that. We want to keep our own name on our back, right? But he's been a great guy. I'll bet he's gone to 250 rallies. You may have the record, right? We have the people from, the ladies from North Carolina. We have the front row Joes. Where's the front row Joe? Look at this. Think how it will be. But these people are very much like how the Democrats are and the way they cheat in elections. They have absolutely no shame. These criminals are the way the Democrats are. They have no shame whatsoever. They cheat, and it's almost like routine for them. It doesn't bother them at all. Kamala Harris lies about everything, and that's why they call her Lion Kamala, L-Y-I-N apostrophe, Lion. Lion. She's a liar. She lies about everything. She makes up stories about me. But yesterday, like knowing who Trump is, I would say he's a terrible guy. You know, he rips babies out of a crib. Remember when they blamed me for building cages to put kids in? 2 years before President Trump came into office. That was done by Barack Hussein Obama, right? That was Barack Hussein Obama. Remember that? They let, and then finally somebody spoke up and said, I never built those things. And then it was Obama that built them. So it took a little time. Did I get an apology? Gotten into the real pictures real fast. Like, you know, it's so nice. It's not a horrible plot. It's not a complex thing that people get bored with, Uncle Sam. It's just basic. She said, lie. And the fake news doesn't want to talk about it. Although I heard a major, it's a lot tougher than I would normally be. You know, we started a document like this. Do you have? They don't even know I'm going to be asking for this. This reminds me, they're unbelievable. No, they didn't even know. That's my favorite document. That document saved my life. Immigration saved my life. Without that document, I would not be here. Without that document, I wouldn't be talking to you. Without that document, we're not here. Because that document's always on my left. It's always on my left. It's always at the end of the speech, not the beginning. And I had it on my right, because I don't use a teleprompter that much, you know, just pieces. By the way, I said this the other day. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need to use a teleprompter? Isn't it, Uncle Sam? Isn't that nice? Isn't it really nice? But they do keep you out of a lot of trouble. You know, you just read the line. Like I was watching her the other day. Bah, 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 bah. Keeps you out of trouble because she can't answer a question. So this document turned out at the beginning. Think of that. What are the chances that it's at the beginning? I never did it at the beginning. Right at the beginning, and it's on my right instead of my left. And I was looking just at the right angle. Ping. I love that document. I sleep with that document every night. I kiss that document. I love that document. But what the document says, now that we get back to order, what the document says is that was the lowest point, the arrow on the bottom, that was the lowest point of illegal immigration in the history of our country. It's the lowest point that we've ever had. We had it going good. That included drugs, and that included trafficking of women and trafficking of children. We had it going, and all they had to do is leave it. And they came in and they terminated everything. Sanctions, they terminated remain in Mexico. They terminated every single thing. And they ended up with, look what happened. It was like a rocket ship, what's gone on. And then we found out on top of everything, I don't think they knew it at that time, they had flights coming in from all over different parts of the world. Flights, big, beautiful airplanes loaded up with migrants flying over the border. So they really did want people to come in. You know, now she says, well, I did a good job, but we're going to do a good job. Why hasn't she done it? You know, my expression with her, you can say every word she utters. Why haven't you done it? She goes, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. She's there for almost 4 years. And I just keep saying, why? I did it during the debate. I killed her in the debate, but I have crooked people. What they do. I had 3-on-1. I didn't even mind that. I still won by a lot. But why? I asked the question. And David Muir, how about him? I said, how about that guy? Pretty boy. You know, we call him Pretty Boy. That's about it. That's about all. But you know what? I said, crime is at a level like we've never seen. It's rampant. It's rising. Okay. He interrupts me. I'm sorry, sir. Crime in this country has gone down. I said, you know, without looking at numbers, is there anybody in this room that think that crime has gone down? It's gone through the roof, and largely because of migrant crime. It's not only that. You know, in New York, you can't walk into a drugstore now. It's like you're in a prison of glass. If you want to buy aspirin, you have to wait 45 minutes for a clerk to come up and open because what's gone on. And every drugstore, I just lost one. I had a nice tenant. I just lost a tenant. I had a beautiful tenant at 40 Wall Street. I just lost a tenant. They opened a big chain drugstore. Big, beautiful chain. They opened. They were doing such great business. 40 Wall Street, right across from the stock exchange. They gave me notice. They said, we're going to have to close because the shelves, the people walk in, they just take everything they want. They walk out of the store. What the hell is going on? See, we have to let the police do their job. And if they have to be extraordinarily rough. And you know, the funny thing with all of that stuff, look at the department stores, same thing. They walk into you see these guys walking out with air conditioners, with refrigerators on their back, the craziest thing. And the police aren't allowed to do their job. They're told, if you do anything, you're going to lose your pension, you're going to lose your family, your house, your car. The police want to do it. The Border Patrol wants to do it. Border Patrol, they're incredible. They want to do it. They're not allowed to do it because the liberal left won't let them do it. The liberal left wants to destroy them, and they want to destroy our country. You know, if you had one day, like one real rough, nasty day with the drugstores as an example, where when they start walking out with, You know, she created something in San Francisco. $950 you're allowed to steal. Anything above that, you will be prosecuted. Well, it works out that the $950 is a misnomer because you can steal whatever you want, you can go way above. But you'd see, originally you saw kids walk in with calculators. They were calculating. They didn't want to go over the $950. They're standing with calculators, adding it up. You know, these are smart people. They're not so stupid, but they have to be taught. Now, if you had one really violent day, like a guy like Mike Kelly, put him in charge, Congressman Kelly, put him in charge for one day. Mike, would you say, he's right here, he's a great congressman. Would you say, Mike, that if you were in charge, you would say, oh, please, don't touch them, don't touch them, let them rob your store. All these stores go out of business, right? They don't pay rent, then the city doesn't have money. It's a chain of events. It's so bad. One rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out, and it will end immediately. End immediately. You know, it'll end immediately. Crooked Joe Biden became mentally impaired, sad. But lying Kamala Harris, honestly, I believe she was born that way. There's something wrong with Kamala. And I just don't know what it is, but there is definitely something missing. And you know what? Everybody knows it.
Of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Also encouraged to reject that term illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception? Are you aware that there's a perception?
Puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE. Yeah. Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How come she hasn't applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million gotaways, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 250,000 Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Kamala Harris, do you trust her to stop the invasion?
Thank you very much. And honestly, we could give you clips like that all day long. This is not your president. This president would destroy our country worse than Biden. He's the worst president in history. She would be worse. Every day, Kamala is using migrant flights in her phone app. Think of this. They're using a phone app where the migrants are allowed to phone them in so they find out how, but it's really, you know who really uses it? The cartels use it. The cartels use it because they pay off everybody. Our crooked people, they pay them off. They have a phone app. Where's the best place to drop the people? But they want to flood up Pennsylvania in particular, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and the entire Midwest with thousands of migrants from the most dangerous countries on earth, destroying the character of small towns and leaving local communities in anguish and in despair. Pennsylvania is not going to take it anymore. I don't think you're going to take it anymore. I don't think so. Towns and leaving local communities in anguish and in despair. Pennsylvania is not going to take it anymore. I don't think you're going to take it anymore. I don't think so. As just an example, the beautiful 4,000-person town of Charleroi. Do you know Charleroi, Pennsylvania? Yes. Beautiful. It was beautiful. Lots of luck, Charleroi. I love you very much. But you get in, Charleroi will be beautiful again, but right now it's not so good. It's seen a 2,000% increase in the population of illegal immigrants under the Border Harris. So its population, this is a little town. No crime, no problem, nice place to live. No problems. It just had a 2,000% increase in population with people just like we're showing you today. Our country is being turned into a dumping ground for the world. We have no choice. The people that Kamala Harris has illegally imported have to go back to places from which they came. They have to go back. They have to go back. In August, an illegal alien who Kamala Harris released into our country despite the fact that he was a convicted murderer and sex offender. Other than that, he was quite a nice gentleman. He was from El Salvador, killed a West Virginia mother of two. Killed her, viciously killed her. Didn't even think it was a bad thing. He didn't even think it was that bad. Only days ago, right here in Pennsylvania, an illegal alien ran over a 23-year-old musician with his car and did it on purpose. And in New York, an illegal alien brutally murdered a woman in front of her children and enjoyed doing it. If Kamala Harris wins this election, she will overwhelm Pennsylvania cities and towns with illegal immigrants and migrants. And Pennsylvania will never, ever be the same. I went to school here. I love this place. I know it. It's so different what's happening to your beautiful place. No, I went to school here, and I loved it. I always loved it. But what's happening is so different. Kamala is so radical, she even wants to legalize fentanyl. She wants fentanyl to come in. When one little drop can destroy you, which is pouring across our borders at record levels, at levels that you've never seen before. Fentanyl, how many people? I mean, everybody I know, they have family members that are dying, mostly children. And many of them not even looking for drugs. They have something else where it's something that and it's laced with fentanyl, and they end up dying a vicious death, by the way. I brought something, the snake. Does anybody want to hear it? We don't have to do it if you want to get back. Should we do the snake or not? Should we, David, do it? We got to get that guy in office. Should we do it? Well, it's so apropos, right? Should we do it? 250, anyone see it, the snake, but it's true. It's just so bad. But it is apropos, isn't it? So for those of you, who has not heard the snake? Who has heard the snake? And they don't care, they want to hear it again. Let's do it. This is about the border, essentially. It was an old song, and a little rewording and things, but it was very, very apropos, and I think very good in a lot of ways. Got to learn your lesson. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried, I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She touched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. That's what's happening on our border. That's what's happening on our border. I mean, we can get a PhD in whatever it is from the best school in the world. It's not going to be more accurate than that. When you look at that guy up there talking to the judge, I kill you, I kill you, I kill you. Oh, he wanted to kill him. He will. If he gets out, he'll kill him 100%. But you have to know, but this is what we're bringing into our beautiful country, our beautiful USA. This is what we're bringing. But we're bringing them in at levels that nobody's ever seen. And we're doing it by stupid people like Kamala. She's a stupid person. Stupid person. I don't care. I don't care. On day one of my new administration, the invasion ends and the deportations begin. We get them out. Thank you very much. As soon as I take office, I will stop all migrant flights to Pennsylvania and every other state. I will shut down all entries through Kamala's migrant phone app. If you can believe, they have an app. They have a phone app. It's called an app. Can you believe this? I will end immediately catch and release. So I had catch and release too. But you know where I released them? In Mexico. I have catch and release too, but I released them in Mexico. Their catch and release was to catch them, even if they were a criminal. Immediately they released them into our country. I released them into Mexico. I will end all sanctuary cities all over our country immediately. And I will restore Remain in Mexico. It's called Remain in Mexico, and it wasn't easy to get. I had a fight like hell with the Mexican government and the president, a good man, but I had a fight like hell. When I told him I want everybody to stay in Mexico, he laughed at me. He laughed. He said, what? Why would we do that? Why? I said, you're going to do it? No, you're going to do it. No, but we can't do that. I said, you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, we're putting this massive tariff on everything you sell into our country, including all the cars you stole. And we'll make an absolute fortune on you, all right? And he said, but Donald, it would be my great honor to do everything that you'd like to do. Please don't put those tariffs on me, please. I beg you, don't put the tariffs. I will send in the federal law enforcement to liberate every Pennsylvania town and every town in the United States of America that has been taken over by migrant gangs and thugs and criminal aliens. Another front in Kamala's war on Pennsylvania's way of life is her war on energy. She was always against fossil fuels. She was born that way. You don't change. You know, she just changed because her poll numbers were bad. You don't change. I'm the only guy this happens to. So I have the debate. Biden goes way down. He's down 21 points, I think. I'm leading by 21 points. The election's over. Crazy Nancy Pelosi. She's crazy as a bedbug. Oh, by the way, Visa, right? Did you see? Visa, she owned a lot of Visa. And the Justice Department brought suit against Visa, a vicious, big, a terrible suit. And she sold all of her stock the day before the suit was brought. She owned it for years. She's crooked. And she also knew, you know, we offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she knew that. And she actually admitted it on her daughter's documentary. She's a documentarian. I don't think Nancy's too happy about that. She said it was her fault. It was her total responsibility. I couldn't believe the daughter released the tapes, but they weren't really released. They were gotten somehow. Somebody gave them. And she took total responsibility. J6. Nancy Pelosi said she turned down thousands of troops, National Guard. Now, you didn't need thousands. You didn't need 10,000. I offered 10,000 or more because I felt it was going to be a very big day. Everybody was talking about it. But she turned them down. If she would have had 200, 300, 400, January 6th would not have existed as we knew it. Now think of it. And she's right on tape. This is my fault. This is my responsibility. I can't believe this has happened. And then they try and blame me for it. I offered them 10,000 troops, whatever you need, a few days before, because I said, there are going to be a lot of people here. If Kamala is reelected, her Green New scam will obliterate the economy of your Commonwealth. Obliterate it. All stupid stuff. It also caused a lot of inflation between the energy policies and everything else they did, but the crazy spending, Green New scam. It used to be called the Green New Deal. Now we call it. Do you ever notice this was such a big deal, the environmental stuff? I haven't heard the environmental stuff mentioned in 6 months. I was saying the other night, what the hell happened to the environment? David, will you figure this out? David McCormick, everybody vote for him. David, will you figure this out? You know? No, but think about this. I haven't heard, Mike, they don't ever talk about the environment anymore. You know why? Mike is saying, don't talk about it now. No, it's one of the great scams of all time. You know why they don't talk about it? Because people aren't buying it anymore. I don't want to use bad language. My wife said, please don't use bad language. You know who said that? Right. The great son of the legendary Billy Graham, Franklin Graham. He said, sir, you are one of the greatest storytellers I've ever heard, but I listened to your rally the other night. You wrote me a beautiful letter, and your stories would even be better if you didn't use foul language. And I respect Franklin. I love Franklin. Franklin's a great guy. He really, really does a good job. And, you know, I took that letter. I said, gee. And then I said, okay, I won't use certain words. But, you know, when you don't use those certain little key words like bullshit, there's no other word. No, I'm trying to find, it's just, there's no other word. I mean, I don't use really bad words, but like, you know, for emphasis, and so I tried it one time and it wasn't pretty. Instead of that word, I said, and it's not true. And people are looking like, you know, falling asleep. Oh. But when I win, we will get Pennsylvania energy workers fracking, drilling, pumping, and producing like they have never produced before. Lion Kamala vowed to repeatedly ban fracking, and she imposed a natural gas export ban. That was a killer. That is starving your state right now. of your wealth and wealth that you deserve. Right now, she imposed a ban on the natural gas. Very bad. People don't even talk about it. Her insane electric vehicle mandate. This is where everybody's going to have an electric car within a very short period of time. But maybe not everybody wants an electric car. And we love Elon. I love Elon. He endorsed me, gave me the strongest endorsement. And his Tesla is great, but he understands this. And he never once, somebody said, does Elon ever speak to you about the electric? I said, never spoke to him about it. He never called me and said, what the hell are you doing here? Because he understands. He's got a great market. It might be 7 or 8%, but they're trying to have everyone 100%. Number one, they're made in China. For the most part, they will all be made. The auto workers are now, you saw the Teamsters overwhelmingly supported me. You saw that. And the auto workers are overwhelmingly supporting me. It's pretty amazing. But the insane electric vehicle mandate, they want everybody to have an electric car, but they don't go far. They cost much more. There are a lot of problems, and they don't work well. In Iowa, it was 20 degrees below zero, and I always heard the cars don't work well in the cold. And I had a big night in Iowa. I won that whole primary thing. We won by numbers that nobody's ever seen before. So I remembered very vividly, and I'm driving there, and there are cars all over the road. I said, what the hell is going on? Sir, they're electric cars, and they don't work in cold weather. I said, oh, that sounds like a bad idea. No, there are a lot of problems, but there are a lot of, some people want them. They're great. Other people don't. But you have to have your choice. If you want a gasoline-propelled car, if you want to have a hybrid, you should have it. You should be able to have it. The new thing is hydrogen. They have hydrogen cars. They have one problem. On occasion, it will blow up. And when it blows up, you are not recognizable. No, you're not even recognizable. This is like a massive bomb being dropped. When it blows up, you are no longer, your wife cannot identify you. Let me put it that way. Is this your husband? Does they show you blood? Is this your husband? I really can't tell. No, so that's a problem they're going to have to work out, I think. But they say that's the new up-and-coming thing. So far, I'm not interested. Her insane electric vehicle mandate will decimate Pennsylvania's economy by abolishing gas-powered cars and trucks for American roads and destroying your fossil fuel industry. And there's very few states that benefit like you do from fracking. I mean, it's you have 500,000 jobs. And if she gets it, she's going to just dead it. She's a liar. Remember, again, McDonald's, just put it in your mind. It's so simple. I don't have to go through a long story. She said she worked there. She's a liar. That's why we're calling her Lyin apostrophe. And thanks to her Green New scam, your electricity prices are up in Pennsylvania 62% since she took office, and are slated to be increased this year by more than 30%. Congratulations. If and when we win, everyone says, sir, say, if they didn't cheat, I wouldn't even be here today. You know why? I wouldn't have to campaign. I'm here only because they cheat, and they cheat in this state, especially in Philadelphia. And I've mentioned a couple of the areas, but for the most part, but Philadelphia is out of control. Detroit is out of control. Atlanta is out of control. Places are out of control. Because if there was no cheating, if God came down from a high and said, I am going to be your vote tabulator for this election, I would leave this podium right now because I wouldn't have to speak. We wouldn't have any problem. We have to have a landslide because they cheat so damn much. We have to have a landslide. Right, Mike? So I never say when I win. We're leading in all the polls. We're leading the state. But I say if and when, because I don't want to be obnoxious, and I don't want to be foolish either. But if and when we're leading big, I win, I will cut. Too big to rig, you're right. We want to make it too big to rig. But here's a big promise to Pennsylvania and to the whole country, by the way, because your prices are really high. I mean, for people with all of that power, all of that liquid gold under your feet, you're getting screwed. You're paying high. You're paying one of the highest energy rates, including cars, air conditioners, heating. You're paying one of the highest in the whole country. Perhaps your governor's not doing a very good job. I don't know what the hell's going on. But when you have that kind of energy, you shouldn't be paying the price. But you're one of the highest. But here's a promise I'm making to you. I will cut your energy and electricity prices in half, 50%, 50, within 12 months of taking the oath of office. Within 12 months of taking the oath of office, I will cut your energy prices by 50%, and it's not going to be hard, and I will terminate the natural gas export ban. Can you imagine we have a ban? We have countries that want to pay us. You know, we were energy independent 4 years ago. Now we're not. But more importantly, we were going to be energy dominant. I would have been producing today 3 to 4 times what I was doing 4 years ago. I will repeal the insane electric vehicle mandate, and we will drill, baby, drill. Those 2 things very early. Drill, baby, drill. Thank you. And earlier this month, I was honored to receive the endorsement, as I said just a little while ago, but I got the endorsement from the rank and file membership of the Teamsters. It was a great honor. You know, I've used in New York. It's a very union town, and I used the Teamsters for years. They were great. They drove the cement trucks where I poured the concrete frames, and I did it for many years. A lot of buildings, built many buildings, many buildings, and Teamsters. And I got along with them great, but I got 60% of the vote. Actually, I think more than that, but 60% of the vote. And some local chapters, we did even better in Pennsylvania. We got 65% of the vote from the Teamsters. Wow, thank you very much. I love the team. Are there any Teamsters? Any Teamsters in the room? Good. Stand up, sir. He's a tough-looking guy. Very good. Good. Thank you. And as a result of this, you know, shocking, to me it's not shocking, but as a result, the national organization, as you know, has refused to endorse the Democrat candidate for president for the first time in decades. I mean, it's been a long time. And I want to thank Teamsters President Sean O'Brien and all of the incredible rank-and-file Teamsters that did this. This was a big shocker. It wasn't shocking to me. I said, how the hell are Teamsters? You know, these are tough people. How the hell are they going to vote for this woman, this terrible person? She's weak in so many ways, like, you know, she's weak. They're not going to vote for that. I said a long time ago, I actually believe they would have been better if they left crooked Joe Biden in, because I actually think at least he had a base. She has no base. You know, she was the last person. She came in last because when he ran, he got 14 million votes, whatever you want. I'm not a big fan of his. I wouldn't say he's exactly the greatest. Do we agree? Not exactly the greatest. He doesn't have any idea where the hell he is, but I think he's better than she is. And he had a base. You know, he had a little base because of years and years. He made up a lot of it. You know, he said he lived here, he lived there. He said, I used to fly jets too. If pilots came in, I used to fly jets. If truckers came in, I used to drive a truck. The worst of all, though, was when he said, I want to play him in golf. He wants to play me in golf. You ever see him play? Yeah. And Trump. Oh, but I'm a good golfer. No, I'm a good golfer. He said, I want to play him in golf. I'll give him 3 strokes a side. I said, can you believe this? The guy can't play. He never could. By the way, 30, 40 years ago, he couldn't play either. I was also honored to receive the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police, representing almost 400,000 police officers. Biggest organization all across our country. And also, I got almost every single police. Maybe I got them all, but I want to say almost because the fake news is back there, so I have to be careful. If I say I got them all and there's like one little group in some place, No, but I got almost every single group of police officers and law enforcement, generally sheriffs, everybody. These are great people, and we got to let them do their job. Also central to Kamala's agenda for economic destruction is her plan to impose the largest individual tax hikes in American history on you, the largest small business tax hike. She wants to get rid of the estate tax provision that I have in my tax, where if you die and you love your children, you can leave your small farm or small business to your kids. If you don't love your children, it doesn't matter. Does anybody here not love their children? Okay, then I've covered 100% of the audience. Well, there are some, but they're sort of embarrassed. They don't want to raise their head. But also, it's the want to impose the largest capital gains tax in history, and even a brand new wealth confiscation tax, or as they call it, unrealized capital gain, where you have to pay a capital gain even if you keep your business or keep whatever it is that you want to keep. You have to go out, get it appraised. And then after you get it appraised, you have to negotiate. This is the craziest thing. That's called a communist tax. That's basically a confiscation. I mean, some people in this room, you're wealthy, but you don't have a lot of cash, and you're no longer wealthy with this one. This one is whack job. But I don't know if it's ever been used. I mean, I've heard about it for years, but it's called unrealized capital gains. It means exactly what it says. They're unrealized, so you can't tax them, which will annihilate the stock market and wipe out the savings of millions and millions of seniors and retirees, and middle-class families will be devastated. Kamala Harris is a tax queen. She's known as the tax queen. She loves taxing people. This is the only election I've ever seen where somebody brags about, we're going to raise your taxes. You know, I've grown up watching politics. I've always liked politics. I've been on the other side, like writing contribution checks. But I've watched, and I've never heard anything like, you know, most politicians, we will cut your taxes. This is constantly, even if they don't do it, by the way. A lot of times they don't. We will cut your taxes. It is our goal to cut your taxes. We're going to cut. Right, Mike? Every politician. Have you ever seen one that doesn't do that? Look at, I have all these great people here. Great congressmen, warriors. David, are you going to ever say, we will raise your taxes? No, I don't think so. No, I've never seen it. This is the only group. We are going to raise your taxes. We're going to give you capital gains confiscation. We're going to do things that nobody has ever had to do. Vote for Kamala. Who the hell is going to vote? Open borders, tax increases, regulations at a level that no business will be able to hire you. Kamala is coming for your money. She's coming for your pension. She's coming for your savings. And unless you defeat her in November, this country is going to go to hell. As president, I will keep Kamala's greedy hands out of your pockets, and I will deliver gigantic tax cuts for working families of Pennsylvania. Thank you. And very importantly, and this is so important because this is something, and she tried to copy me, that one didn't work out, that she tried. A few months later, she said it, she got slaughtered. We will have no tax on tips. No tax on overtime. And no tax on Social Security benefits for seniors. No tax. No tax. And you know, it's going to lead to great things. A lot of people don't give. I know a lot about overtime. I'd hated to give overtime. I hated it. I'd get other people, I shouldn't say this, but I'd get other people in, I wouldn't pay. I hated. This is going to lead to a lot more. I think it's going to be economically positive, but I'm not even doing it for that reason. I'm doing it because like the no tax on overtime, it's something so good, but no tax for the seniors. Do we have any seniors here? I hate to admit it. I'm a senior. They'll say, he's got a conflict of interest. He's giving this to himself. Watch. I'll end up in front of a grand jury tomorrow. Donald Trump has suggested no tax on Social Security benefits. And he's got a conflict of interest. We're putting him before a grand jury because I've seen more grand juries than Alphonse Capone. And he averaged about killing one person a week. Alphonse, the meanest of them all. I know more about grand juries than Alphonse ever even thought about. My father's looking down on my mother. They're great people. They say, can you believe my son did this? Can you believe that my son would run for politics and be treated this way? But you know what? And we're doing great. We won the big case in Florida. We're winning them all. I'll tell you what, did you see? We won the big case. That was the big one. They're going to get him in Florida. They're going to get him in Florida. It was always, that seemed to be the documents case. I had every right to have him, called the Presidential Records Act. That's what they passed it for. But he didn't have that act because he wasn't president. And he got out. You know how he got out? And I don't want to talk about him too much because she's running. Maybe he'll go back. If she does really badly, they'll probably put him back. Let's rechange. But think of this. So they got him out. They said, he's guilty of what he did, but he's grossly incompetent, which she never told us, by the way. That's putting our country at risk. She should have told us. But he's incompetent, so nobody like this should be able to go to court. So think of it. He can't go to court, but he can run the United States of America. There's something wrong with that, right? There's something wrong with that. But the big case was a documents case in Florida. And we had a brilliant judge who was somebody that understood this whole thing. And I won the case in its entirety. And they go like, that was the big one. The big one was that we're going to get him in Florida. We're going to get that documents case. Now, these are very crooked people. These people have weaponize the justice system, and we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it happen. It's a shame, but that's what it's been. Just makes your job more difficult. But it's all what we fight and the resolve that we have. It's the big reason why we're leading in Pennsylvania, and the Emerson poll just came out. I just heard 2 seconds ago, actually. We're up in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, and they're the only ones they did. Even the New York Times, they're not big fans of mine. I'm not big fans of them, the failing New York Times. The Siena poll, we're up in North Carolina by a lot, and we're up in Georgia by 4, and we're up in Arizona by 5. That's in the New York Times. If they say that, David, that means we're up by, he goes, Uncle Sam said triple. I think you're right. Uncle Sam, please stand up. Look at this guy. Thank you. And by the way, he doesn't work for me. He goes to a lot of these, you know, they say it's the greatest show on earth. It is pretty great, isn't it, though? Isn't it? The people make it great. It's the greatest show on earth. But he does, Uncle Sam, I don't know who he is, but I shook his hand the other day, like at the Nassau Coliseum when we had a big one, but I shook his hand. He's got the strongest hands. He almost broke. I couldn't believe it. I said, Uncle Sam has strong hands. David, I was complaining the whole night. I said, I'm never shaking that guy's hand again. Have you known that? You have strong hands. He said, thank you, sir, very much. And I felt that cracking feeling, right? Now, you're a strong guy, right? Strong hands. What did you do for a living?
I want to go to your inauguration.
Okay. That's a roofer. Good. I can see it. Good. I'll bet you're a good one, too. Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Sam.